Hello, everyone. Thank you for checking out this special episode of Really Dicey. This is Manny, and I am here with.
Hi, I'm Keith Garrett, tabletop game designer.
And today we're going to talk about Paranoia, the perfect edition from Mongoose Publishing. Thank you, Keith, for taking the time to talk to us about this. Where first off, for anyone just hearing about that, there's a perfect edition of Paranoia for the first time. Is it currently now out for the public? Can people purchase PDFs and print copies and so forth?
Yes, it is a PDF, and I think the print copy is available now for sale as of last month, September.
So yes, so Paranoia was one of those games, any game where there's a lot of I don't know if treachery is the right word. I don't know if backstabbing is the right word. But usually games like that don't work so well, except in Paranoia. It has such a very interesting elements of role playing game, strategy game, and comedy. So yeah, so this is the perfect edition. What can you tell us about this edition particularly? Actually, maybe before I even say that, I should ask first, how would you define Paranoia for anyone that's never heard of it before?
Well, I think your words, treachery and backstabbing, I think they're perfect, and I think that's one of the biggest draws of the game. So I, I've heard it described as um, uh, 1984 meets Monty Python, and I think that catches it pretty well. It's a role-playing game in a darkly humorous future where an insane computer is running everything, and you're playing the some of the hapless folks who are trying to do its bidding and survive at the expense of each other. And so one of the coolest things about it is that it's not a cooperative role-playing game; it's competitive. So it's every clone for himself, but that's mitigated a bit by the fact that every player has six copies of themselves. So death is common and expected, and it's no big deal. Steve kills John. Uh, John's back in a few minutes. Um, so yeah, that and of course that it's played for humor and satire. So um, not super serious.
Okay, so is the setting still the same as in previous editions? Is there still the great computer watching over all of us?
It is. It's still the same that old timers know and love. And what we did, and I'm part of a team that worked on this, by the way. WJ McGuffin was the project lead. Happy that he brought me in to help, and Greg Ingber also helped out on this edition. And but most of the great ideas were McGuffin. Um, and one of those was that the setting is sort of a carry on from the last big product for the previous edition, which was Red Clearance Edition that came out, I think, in 2017. And that was Project Infinite Hole, which is um, some linked regarding a black hole that basically gets loose in Alpha Complex. So one of the things that we wanted to change in this edition was adding more scarcity and um, things are breaking down in Alpha Complex. It Things are not getting better and they're not going to get better. So it was a chance to um, I can reinvent, but maybe put a new spin on some of the old service groups and secret societies and things like that that make up. Like,
Hmm. So for anyone that's played the older games and looking to pick this up, are there many changes to the rules since then? What would you say are some of the bigger changes rules wise?
it's yes, it's a so there are some changes from in this edition from the immediately previous one, Red Clearance, but not as big as the changes from Red Clearance that were implemented in Red Clearance from before. There were a lot of changes there. You know, they went from a 20 sided die to a dice pool of sixes, one of which has the computer face that I think is pretty cool. When you roll a computer, it means the computer is watching, they're paying attention to what you just did, and that's not usually a good. And it changed up some of the stats and skills. uh, changed the way Moxie worked. Oh, the big thing in that edition was cards. It added cards for equipment and mutant powers and actions and just about everything else. So this edition kept the D6s, the computer dice, the same way you determine actions, success, failure, the new use of Moxie, but it did away with the cards. Some people love the cards. Not everybody loved the cards, but but either way, no cards in this edition. Although in I think it's the accessory book that comes with the new Paranoia. There are rules that accommodate people who still want to use the cards if you have them from past editions. So I think it's really compatible with Raid Clearance Edition. And in fact, also there's conversion guides for all previous editions, and I think they did a good job with those. Um, there was another important difference that I was going to say, but maybe it'll come to me as we talk. But,
So, would you say the Perfect Edition is pretty much a compilation of like pretty much? Usually, when I think of Perfect Editions or Ultimate Editions, usually it's they take previously what's been written before and kind of clean it up and then put it together into one book. Is that what the Perfect Edition is? Would you say?
a little bit. I'm not sure if that was the design goal or the meaning of the word, but it kind of ended up that way because the core book is uh, mostly comprehensive. It covers all the basics. You know, you got your bots, all your secret societies, or at least the core secret societies, your service groups, your equipment, um, all your weapons, um, and in the companion book, the accessory book. No, the accomplice book. I'm sorry, the accomplice book is the accessory. It also has a bunch of material from past editions, all past editions, added just for the heck of it. Secret societies from various editions that weren't quite the core experience that we wanted to present, but we still liked them and wanted to put them in. So those other mutant powers. So you got even more. So yeah, it's not exactly intended to be a compilation of all the greatest hits, but in a way, it kind of turned out that way.
Comedy is one of those art forms that has to evolve with uh, changes in society and culture and so forth. Um, so when to keep the tone, was there any? I don't know. Challenges is the right word, but did you feel that there had to be a shift in comedy styles in making this version compared to what's done previously? Do you felt like for the most part it kept the tone the same?
Uh, yeah, uh, a lot of attention was paid, uh, both by our team and the original owners of Paranoia, who are still involved in making sure that, like you say, the tone is consistent. Um, there was a lot of back and forth about that. And one example of I don't know if this is exactly tone, but an example of how comedy evolved was that Red Clearance Edition had um, done away with commies because commies were less in vogue in 2017, and so they swapped it out with terrorists. Um, and as I heard James Wallace, one of the designers of that edition, say, how would they have known that right after they released it, communism kind of came back in a big way, and so we're back to commies now. So in your game, you can call them terrorists or commies or whatever you want, but we've got the old school commies back.
I have not seen the book yet. What would you say? What contents would you say is in the book? How is it? How are the chapters laid out exactly?
Well, of course, you've got your character creation. That's another thing that changed from in Red Clearance that we kept for the most part in this edition was character creation is a bit uh, antagonistic. You go around starting with one character, they pick a skill, they get that at +1, and their neighbor gets that at a -1, and it keeps going on until everybody got a +1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and a -1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the reason that you got a minus is because of the jerk sitting right next to you. So um, anyway, so character creation, you got your equipment, which I'm really excited about in this version, both the names of the equipment and the way that it works. We've done some little tweaks to success and failure results, and the artwork of the equipment is fantastic. It's got one sample adventure. I'm trying to remember the difference between the two books. It's a core book and, like I say, an accomplished book. But the accomplished book really has so much good stuff that I hope everybody will get both. But like that one's got a mission blender that I'm really proud of. I converted that one from XP edition. Um, I'm sure I'm forgetting a lot. Oh, and of course the introduction on what Alpha Complex is and how, possibly how it came about. We're not saying necessarily this is how it came about in your world, but a possible origin for Alpha Complex. Lots of examples of play that I think help a lot to drive home the mood that a GM should be going for.
Mm.
Those are things off the top of my head that's in there. But yeah, it's pretty complete.
Mm. If I may,
it's also back to a. I've got it right here. It's also back to a bigger form factor book this time, where the Red Clearance edition was all more digest size.
if I may ask, what's been your for this edition? What's been your favorite part in writing about it? Was there anything about it that you look back at it and like, I love that I put this in here?
Well, I no, not a specific part because, well, I can tell you one, yes. But in general, it's just being able to put my spin on some of the core part of the game. Like, so we divided up. So I did about half the write-ups of the service group, about half the mutant powers. That was some of the most fun with mutant powers. But also I got to introduce a new mandatory bonus duty. So clones have six possible uh, bonus duties that are not voluntary, but there's team leader, there's hygiene officer, the equipment officer, things like that. But this time we put in the media officer um, that I personally think is a lot of fun for media, both as I described it, social and otherwise.
Does this book contain any game master tools? Anything that would help anyone new coming into this um, um, get adjusted very quickly?
Yes, I think it has a lot. It's got sections specifically for GM advice, um, capturing the feel of paranoia, managing the wacky backstabbing without letting players get irritated with each other, um, and yeah, sprinkled throughout also like sidebars listing top five songs in Alpha Complex and things like that to help catch the mood. Yeah, I think it's mainly intended for GM because traditionally players aren't supposed to know the rules anyway. They can. It's just that's the idea. Is it's kind of treason to know things above your station. So it's mainly intended for the GM. So it's full of good advice.
One last question. Could you share, is there a favorite memory of Paranoia that you kind of look back from time to time, think like, "Oh, glad I was part of that adventure," or glad that you helped run that adventure?
Yes, uh, I was just thinking recently that I think I've been in two different play groups where two brothers were playing, and it's just kind of neat to see brother against brother because they seem to bring a little extra baggage, and there's a little something extra to a kill when it's brother on brother. And in one of my early games, I guess in my 20s, which would have been second edition, the two brothers, their mother also played with us sometime, and if I remember correctly, she was pretty good at killing her kids.
Excellent. So I lied. I do have one more question. Um, what is the next? What's the future of the line? Is what's next after this now?
I don't know for sure, but if I had to predict, I would say uh, the safest bet is to expect more missions because that's what they've done in the past, and that I think that's always done a good job of keeping paranoia alive because it's easy enough to improv an adventure in this game. Players will be killing each other just getting down the hallway to the briefing room, and you don't need a whole lot of plot. But I think paranoia adventures not just it's not just that they give you structure and a mission, but they're written by famous game designers, so they're really funny. They're just fun to read. So I've done that myself. I just love reading Paranoia stuff, whether I'm running it or not. It's just hilarious. Yeah, I would look for more adventures at least.
Oh, excellent. Is there any last words? Anything you want to share before we wrap up?
No, not that I can think about. And thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. Well, Keith, yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing about this book. I can't wait to get a copy of it myself. Thank you so much. And viewers, if you're watching this, please let me know your favorite memories of Paranoia. And we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.